So we are here to talk about, well, pretty much anything. But our theme this month is tech and mindfulness. And as most of you know, I'm a huge fan of tech. So this is one of my favorite topics. And I can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say about it. Hello, Blossom Violet, my twinny down under. Hi, Jeffrey. And Jeffrey saying hello to the traveling man, Don. I love that.
What's
Yeah,
up, Jeffrey?
I'm loving. You're gonna have to tell us about your travels, Don, because I'm loving those pictures.
My
All
high-tech
right.
travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Catherine, nice to see you. All right, so I am going to get started by letting our teachers introduce themselves. We have some new ones, some seasoned. I don't like to say old because I don't like the word old. Some of us are seasoned teachers, some of us are new teachers. So I'm going to start with you, Deana, because you're on the bottom of my screen.
All right. So I'm Deana Coble, and I'm a teacher here on Insight Timer. And mine is it's all about self-love and how self-love, loving you unconditionally, is possible and so transformative. So that's it for me, and I'll pass to Don.
How did that happen? You went right up through the whole little thing and landed on me. Hi, everybody. Jeffrey, Blossom. Who else do I know that's showing up there? But hello, I'm Don McAvinchey. I've been a teacher on Insight for 3 or 4 years now, something like that, I think. Um,
I think so.
Something like that, yeah.
Don was one of the first teachers I followed, and it was because of his coffee talk. And again, I'm saying now I'm conscious of how I say coffee because I'm a New Yorker. But
Yeah,
I
you got
love his coffee tracks, coffee meditations.
uh, good morning coffee meditation. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fun. That one was the most popular for the first couple of years. I couldn't believe it. Thousands
Yeah.
of people listened to that. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, I do a live event every week, usually on Mondays now, and it's at let's see, 1 o'clock Eastern time in the U.S., whatever that is for everybody else. We're currently focused on a series called "How to Create a Month of Miracles," and taking on kind of a sense of the miraculous and what does that mean in our lives and how can we open up to serendipity and synchronicity and the love of life itself. Um, so that's been really fun. And yeah, I love being on Insight Timer. It's a really great part of my life.
Yeah, me too.
um, I'll pass it on to, well, my new friend Richelle over in London. Here you go, Richelle.
Thank you. Hello, nice to see everyone. I am new, so I actually haven't even done my first live yet. I have got some free tracks, but I'm going to be going live very soon. I am based in London, but I'm also kind of a bit all over the place. I am traveling. I am a naturopathic nutritional therapist, and my background is actually I started in nursing, and through my own journey, my own health journey. I, really went into the what we can do in self-healing for ourselves, and it's been a passion of mine for a few years. And I actually started on Insight Timer as a viewer, became completely engrossed in, I mean, every night, without fail. Even now, I'm on Insight Timer, and it's been amazing to be able to join the community as a teacher as well. So nice to see everyone, and I'll let everyone know, when I've got a live coming soon. And I'm going to pass it on to Anem.
Anne? Oh, sorry. I realized my it's Anne. It's just I had my middle name there. That's so funny.
Apologies.
That's
No,
fine. That's
that's very
fine.
funny.
Yeah, I'm trying
Um,
to read the names because they're so small. I'm like,
yeah, and I just realized that I had that on. I'm Anne Lewis. I'm a meditation teacher here in Hillsville, Australia, in the Yarra Valley, which is a very nice place and very cold place to be at the moment. So I have been a teacher on Insight Timer since 2000 and taking lives since 2001. No, 2000, sorry, 2020 and 2021 I started the lives. Getting a bit muddled. And I have a background in nursing as well. I did nursing management, which almost broke me, and basically started doing meditation to heal myself, and then couldn't get away from the fact that I needed to help people, and I'd found this wonderful tool that I just wanted to share. So predominantly I started off taking classes in aged care facilities, teaching older people that had never thought they could meditate to meditate. So I had my oldest student has been 106, which was just amazing, and it's just a wonderful gift to be able to share that with people that never thought they'd be able to calm. So I tend to work with senses, very mindful and very sensory meditations. I do a lot of online, taking a lot of guided visualizations, as well as covering topics such as, the meditation, of course, gratitude, passion, just, in general, just wanting people to be able to meditate independently as well as using the tools that we provide, and try and provide a safe community where people are happy to share. That's about it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I'll pass it on to Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Slijepcevic. I am currently in Los Angeles, California. I am also a meditation teacher here on Insight Timer. I've been on Insight Timer since 2018, I want to say, so it's been a long time. I'm also a marriage and family therapist trainee, so I'm actually kind of coming out of sessions as we speak. And so a lot of the work that I do on Insight Timer is very related to mental health. And so tidbits of mental health constantly, all the time. Not even a job anymore. It's kind of just my mentality at this point. But I initially came into Insight Timer as a student looking for mindfulness practices, something that was quick and easy and digestible, because I love rooting mindfulness practices in the real world, which is very fast and chaotic and not always peaceful. And so I came into my work actually with the yoga and meditation background, and melded all of that with psychology, which has been really, really helpful. I love looking at mindfulness in a very authentic way, which tends to be very messy and sort of chaotic, and normalizing pain and suffering and the shadow side of things, because I see a lot of that in my work. And so how can I make it very genuine for a lot of my clients who say, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to make space for these things. And let's be real and honest and say, yeah, me neither. I get that. How can we make it very, very real? And very raw, and I found that to be really helpful. I also am a writer by nature, and so I have a lot of love for writing things down. And I teach a Saturday live class that's meditation and journaling, and so we spend the first half or so meditating and rooting and grounding, and then journaling and putting pen to paper. And I most love when people come and say that they don't love journaling, or that they struggle with it, or it's a challenge. I love that, because I think it's wonderful for people to take a shot at something. And it's better to try something and know you don't like it than to not know if you like it, if you've never given it a fair shot. So we have so many modalities when it comes to healing. Journaling is just one tiny little snippet, a little blip on the screen, if you will. And if you try it and you find out that it's not for you, great, at least you gave it a shot. Now we can try something else. And I love dabbling in different things, because sometimes journaling might not hit the spot, but something else might. Something else might need to be the mode of healing that day. So in all of that to say, I've been really lucky to create a community on Insight Timer. I've loved to share my writing and share recordings and meet so many people from around the world and just chat with them and kind of meet them where they are. It's been really fulfilling for me. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and very, very excited to participate. This is my first time. So thank you for having me, Violet. And
you're welcome.
I will pass it along to Aleksandra.
Actually, before you get to Alejandro, I just wanted to say that I love that you're passionate about journaling because I am too. So we have to talk later because I do journaling collaborations that I would love to have you join us on. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so
Now,
much.
yes, absolutely. I love when I meet teachers that are passionate about journaling because it's something that has been like my therapy throughout my life. So I love it. All right, Alejandro, we're letting you take over now, and now I can mute myself and sit back and have fun.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to all the new teachers. Welcome, Don and Dana, who are seasoned. I was going to say old, but I guess, but I wouldn't be lying, right? Just kidding. Hi, my name is Alejandro.
These kids.
That's crazy. These kids. Yeah, sure. I've been here on Insight Timer for 4 years now, 3 years, 5 as a practitioner. So it is always good to be here. And today we'll be discussing mindfulness and tech. So it is safe to say that we are all here because of tech. We all have the app, we all have our phones. So we understand the that technology can be an amazing instrument for mindfulness and practice and community. But I want to pose the question to all you teachers here. Can online spaces ever replicate the sacredness of in-person presence? Can online spaces ever replicate the sacredness of in-person spaces? And if you all have any questions, any comments in the audience, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll do our best to keep up and to make space to answer those. So who wants to take the question? Anyone?
I'll take a shot at it, Alejandro.
Go for it, Don. Go for it.
So I think the answer for me anyway is unequivocally yes, that our connections with other people don't even rely us being on the same side of the planet, let alone what kind of technology we're using. And that we can create, well, I shouldn't say it. We can create settings where that wonderful energetic field that exists around us and through us, some people call spirit or God or whatever. I think of it as the field. That if we open to that experience of the field, of that connection with other people, it doesn't matter if we're talking to them through our cell phone or doing it on Zoom or creating a group meditation here on Insight Timer. That love and that wonderful heart connection happens regardless. Oftentimes in my live events, I'll say, let's just take a moment. Let's go into meditation again. We usually do a 20-minute meditation, but then we'll go into it again. And as somebody has mentioned in the comments that there's some struggle they're going through. And I just say, let's just feel all of our hearts, all connected, all the way around the world in this wonderful circle that's shown up here today, and send that person support, just 30 seconds of support. And maybe I'm delusional and somewhat psychotic, so that I might just pretend that I'm feeling it. Totally open to that interpretation, but I do feel it, and people say they feel it. So maybe we're all a little delusional, or it's actually really happening. I don't know. But what's cool to me is that it's an experience that actually does happen, and we actually do sense that connection all the way around the world through Insight Timers live meditations, for instance. It's one way that we do that. So I would say absolutely yes, we can have that sacredness for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I agree. I agree. As someone who holds space in person on a weekly basis, here locally, but also here on Insight Timer and different platforms. There's this community still is community, and connection is still connection. So I agree. Anyone else? Anyone else wants to tackle the question? Go ahead, Deana, and then Richelle.
Yeah, so because energy is vibrational, it isn't limited to technology. Or, and it's not limited by technology. We can reach one another even without the technology. Just thinking of another person and holding space for them, it connects. And so, for me, technology is another opportunity to have a broader reach, to different individuals. So, and I think that absolutely connecting, that there can be transformational work done, even through Zoom or through any piece of technology. And, there's something to be said for, I think it's a mimicking of where we are also vibrationally. We seem to think like, oh, I can connect to somebody far away. I can give them a call. And it's a reflection of how we are actually all just connected anyway. That at some point in time, I think we'll get past having to pick up the phone to connect one another. We can think of one another and be connected. We can do that now, but I think technology is just steps in the direction of our interconnectedness. So, and I'm very grateful for technology because I get to meet folks like Alejandra and Violet and Don and Alec and Michelle and Anne. So, and Anne puts me to sleep, buddy. I'll tell you, I go to one of her meditations and I'll be like, I'm going to make it through. And then some part way through, I'm like, so, which is great because she goes into such a deep space. So I really enjoy that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Richelle?
I think, in the past, I definitely had an idea about tech being something that was not going to be having that sort of connection that I have with people face to face. And I've run a lot of workshops, but it's really been eye-opening for me. I do a lot of kind of work online, and the kind of mimicking what people have said, but the connection that you can get with people is exactly the same as what you get face to face. And even if I'm thinking, like, today I had a remote Reiki session, and I've had sometimes some of my most powerful sessions remotely. And because, like we said, energy, it doesn't matter about the tech that you're on, it reverbs through. So yeah, absolutely, that you can still maintain. And because at the end of the day, if we're talking about the sacredness and what that is, it's about being present, it's about being connected, it's about being safe and open. And these are things that you can have in any sort of space. So definitely agree.
Absolutely. I love that you bring up what is sacredness. What does that look like? Sacredness is presence, is being here and now in whatever setting. And Alex, from someone also with a background in psychology and therapy, what's your take on it? I saw your hand, so yeah. What's your take on it? And when it comes to the sacredness and the presence and the in person versus the screen in between us.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of shared something that I also feel, especially now, especially as instructors, perhaps even as facilitators of different workshops and things, Insight Timer has been, I think Dawn said, like, being able to connect to people, far away, and being able to connect to people that you probably wouldn't connect to in any other time. So like being able to have that far reaching impact goes a long way. What brings up something for me is like even in the field of mental health, like right around COVID time, telehealth became a really, really big thing, right? And so it became a big thing because there was a need. You couldn't necessarily go to your therapist in person. Now it was more online. And so we kind of took that and sort of ran with it. And now it's become so beautiful because you'll recognize that some folks might have, I don't know, kept themselves from accessing certain resources because they weren't able to travel, or because they weren't able to, maybe they didn't want to leave their home, or whatever the case is. It made it possible for people to get the help that they needed and the support because technology became available in that way. So that flexibility of now saying we don't necessarily need all the time these sort of brick buildings and these physical spaces, we can have that space virtually. It might look a little different. We might need to connect in a different way, because if I'm able to hug you physically and then not have that same physical connection virtually, we might just need to kind of look for different ways. But I think that's where it goes to speak about adaptability and flexibility of how much we can navigate different ways of connection and what that means, redefining connection altogether. I found that to be a really big impact in my field, and even on Insight Timer and in mindfulness spaces. There are different ways to connect, and it just kind of goes to, I don't know, intentionality. Why are we here? Holding space, being very clear, communicating very openly. So I think it can be a really beautiful and accessible way for people to connect that isn't what we've been used to, that goes beyond just traditional ways. And technology has been, it can always be used for good. So I found that to be a really big blessing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think um, I started meditating by myself. I discovered meditation through yoga, and I was just trying to figure out. And as someone with ADHD and a very busy mind, it was tough. The beginning stages of me trying to figure out what meditation was for me and how it looked like, and trying to break the stigma of, meditation is sitting cross-legged and just in quiet, and my brain needs to be completely shut down. All of these things, finding community in an online space through the app here on Insight Timer was so freeing to find guides to be able to connect with different guides and different methods of meditating, and finding what worked for me and finding what resonated with me and what didn't was so important in my own journey, not only as a practitioner, but then also as a guide later on. Anne, anything you have to add to the combo?
Just get my mute off. I think I feel very much that it's who's in the room and is really creates the energy. I have found with Insight Timer, there were some changes recently, and I really struggled with that, not being able to see the little bubbles of the faces, not being able to connect in that way. That was, to me, the point of connection that I was used to. And I often say in my sessions, I have red fairy lights behind me and I've got white fairy lights behind me. The white fairy lights are the people sitting in the background, and the red are the ones that are feeling like coming forward and chatting. It really does feel like a sense of community. And like Don mentioned, I know during the loving kindness meditation I take, I just feel I love to know where everyone's coming from, and I can almost visualize our arms wrapping around the world, holding on to each other like a ball of string, just covering it, and just even just saying it now, I just feel that tingle I get when I when I do that session. And I've had more connection at times in the Insight Timer online sessions than I have in some classes that I've taken, and vice versa. It just depends on the day, the room, and the energy. So that's my thought on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now to shift a little bit to a little bit more of a the hot take and a different. We've talked about how important and how holding spaces in person or in online spaces like Insight Timer, how it we can still co-create a beautiful sacred place. It is the being present. It is the being here, the being now, just as we are. But what are signs that technology is actually disrupting our peace or our presence? And I'll start with my very hot take as a not only as a coach on meditation here on Insight Timer and other platforms and other apps, but also as a practitioner. I think for me, and this might be a hot take, and again, everything we share here is not out of judgment, it's out of exploration. But because I noticed myself doing this in the beginning stages, was being a chronic um, live sessions attendee, meaning I was at every single live all throughout the day, trying to gather and gather and gather and gather and not practicing and not being rooted in my practice. I found myself in the beginning stages of being here on Insight Timer as a practitioner, being distracted by being guided and not grounded in my own practice, in my own healing. So for me, that was a sign that technology was sort of, I don't know if it was disrupting, but I was using technology in my healing journey as a way to distract myself from the real work, because meditation, mindfulness is real work. I know for most of us, we're here for healing. We found meditation in our healing journey. We found mindfulness practices wanting to find solace and peace and whatever it is. And I know for me, sometimes things, and we talked about it yesterday. We had a live session yesterday here with Violet, and sometimes healing sucks. Sometimes in the stillness, sometimes in the quietness of the meditation cushion or the yoga mat, that's when things come up. And it is really easy. It was really easy for me to distract myself. Oh, let me go into this other live. Because on this live, something's come up and that was too painful. So for me, that was a sign that technology was actually distracting me from the practice and the presence of the heaviness of the healing. So any takes on what are signs that technology might be disrupting our peace or our presence in the sacred space? Go ahead, Alex, and then Richelle, I think.
Oh, I think Richelle had her hand up. I will pass it to you, Richelle, happily.
That's okay. That's okay. I was gonna say I was in a very similar pattern when I joined, and it could be that ADHD, dopamine hit, but I was very much, I need to go on this live, I need to go on this live. And it got to the point where it was disrupting my sleep. And obviously, if we're talking about where it's really disrupting our sense of peace, this was integral. I mean, I was going on, distant, connection and energy sessions at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the morning, which, you could say in one sense, okay, we're looking at things that are supportive, but that's not supportive if it's disrupting my patterns and my ability to actually sleep and get that healing myself. And definitely going into the fact that we need those times of silence, and that they're the times that we are faced with our own thoughts and we are faced with really what is going on. And I definitely can feel that distraction sometimes when you are in constantly guided sessions or guided meditation. So I think it's really about trying to, like we said about with journaling, but really just trying to kind of stop ourselves and just ask, okay, what is it that I'm actually trying to get right now? Like, am I and what am I trying to receive from this session, or what am I trying to receive from this technology? And it's that intention. And I think just putting in a space to ask ourselves those questions, we're able then to see what it is that we need. And I think that can be really helpful in kind of getting that separation, from making sure that kind of technology doesn't go over and tip over into the point where it's having a disruptive impact. So that's what I would add on it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Alex.
Yeah, I was it's something very similar to what Richelle mentioned. I feel like I could say so much because I work with a lot of, I mostly work with kids, a lot of high school kids. And so when it comes to technology and mental health, I see it firsthand of how it can be a beautiful thing. And I can see firsthand how it can be a very difficult thing. And but when I think of actually something, Alejandra, you said about like, oh, if I hop on this live and something comes up and I don't want to deal with that, then I'm just going to go somewhere else, right? Like this kind of this accessibility of being able to say, if I don't like what's bringing up for me and I don't like what it's like digging up, I'm just going to go somewhere else where that isn't going to be in my face. And I feel like the fact that we have that accessibility and that ability to kind of jump from things, it says a lot, right? It comes up for me too when I think something Richelle said, like when you notice that, like, oh, am I just moving into things because I don't want to sit with what's coming up, or is it triggering something, or and that's okay. You know, I've learned as well with technology, sometimes I might not be in the right space or feel safe enough or even vulnerable enough to want to sit with that. Maybe I do need something more lighthearted or something a little bit different. So I feel like there's just so many branches that technology offers, but I will say for kind of my work and where I am, I've noticed that it can be, especially for younger people. I mean, this impacts adults as well, but I see it for kids whose brains are still developing. You know, they're looking at it from face value, very much what's in front of them, very impactful, very it can go a lot of different ways and a lot of different paths. And so I think there's always conversations that ought to be had when it comes to technology, especially with younger generations, of being able to give them an idea of, hey, there's sometimes longer repercussions of following a certain thing or being on a certain platform or following a certain trend or whatever the case is. So I think those conversations can be good. I grew up when being online all the time wasn't really a thing. So I feel like I had that sort of foundation to, you know, I remember going outside and you play until the lights turned off and you had to go back in and it was dark and you couldn't see anymore. So like that kind of a foundation was different. So when technology really started ramping up, I sort of had an introduction, but it wasn't my basis. Whereas for younger generations now, this is their sort of baseline, that interaction with technology. And again, it could be such a beautiful thing. It can be very progressive. But when that's always been the case, and you sort of start to put limitations on that or try to take it away, they don't always know what's the alternative to that, you know? So I feel like creating that sacred space can be absolutely a virtual thing. It's just having really candid conversations about how to do it in a healthy way where it doesn't become too overwhelming, because I see a lot of anxiety that happens around it too.
Right. And it's like Jeffrey said in the comments earlier, he said, we've all heard about cyberbullying and its immense negative impact it can have. And it seems to me that the positive side is just as powerful. So so yeah, I mean, for as and I know Don, I have you next. But it's so interesting, as so I work with men who are incarcerated and don't have access to the internet, to the most technological thing we have is an MP3 player for those who can afford it and can afford the music, which is really expensive too, $2 a song, um, and um, and it's really interesting to not to practice without having the distraction of tech, and having to sit in isolation if they're in isolation, and having to and guiding that practice of how can I distract myself when now the journey when I'm not ready to go there yet. And how to have a beautiful balance of healing and work and keeping it present, which is when journaling comes in for a lot of us. But Don, take it over, Don.
Yeah, I really like how people are talking about this. And as a Alex, as a fellow family therapist and a narrative therapist, I've seen all kinds of struggles with this. One of the things that breaks my heart with couples clients when they come in is the expectation that they have to respond by text within a certain number of minutes, or it's an insult, or they're getting dissed, or you're not staying in connection with me enough. Like somehow it's like it's has to be so immediate. And there's a whole now kind of structure about relationship through texting that I think is so damaging and limiting of our connections. It's such a beautiful thing when it's used well, but that expectation is really troublesome. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of struggles with technology, and people have written tons and tons about it. Everything from French studies that were done where, doing this with your phone increases brain cancer in teenagers, and we don't talk about that in the US. Keeping it in your pocket for men reduces sperm count. We don't talk about that for men, or in the US, I mean. But one of the things that troubles me a lot about it, um, is because it's so flashy and so immediate in terms of this 2 second blast and then this 3 second blast and then this 1 second blast, and just the images keep rolling and rolling. Is that I think we're really struggling with the kind of natural human talent and skill of reflection to simply be able to sit and be with ourselves, to consider, to contemplate. And I think in many ways, Insight Timer, um, and the other ones, of course, the other kinds of app services, but Insight Timer to me, because I've been on it so long, um, provides kind of a counter culture through reflection, through advocating contemplation from 5 to 60 minutes a day. There's an advocacy that we're doing here that I think is really powerful and goes against that, what I think of as an ADHD producing technology and factor that it actually creates that sense of ADHD in people's lives. So to me, that's one of the big challenges, is to have us as human beings come back to our powerful skill of reflection instead of being driven by the scrolling kind of technological world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dana, and anything you guys want to share?
I wanted to read April's comment. Daydreaming is a lost art. I used to tell my children that boredom is a gift, and that's so true, April. I was a huge daydreamer when I was a kid. And one day I went to get my nails done, and usually they have music or the TV or whatever. This particular day, they had nothing on. So I literally sat there staring at the wall, and I started thinking, and I thought, wow, this is what thinking used to feel like. I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten what that was because I'm so busy, you know, with all the distractions. So I love that April brought that up about daydreaming. I was a huge daydreamer. And who has time now to daydream? There's so many distractions.
Go ahead, and then Richelle.
I absolutely agree with what's been said. And I think when you were talking about, Aleksandra, the jumping from room to room, I think the thing with Insight Timer is that often though you do find that space of connection. So people will pop in and out, but when they find their, I don't know, tribe, their space, they do go back to it. And and there is a sense of comfort. And I think the technology is just wonderful in that we can share, but it shouldn't be used as a crutch where we then are completely reliant on what we're providing as in Insight Timer. I'm hoping that people, the people in the room are taking something from the session that they can utilize in their everyday life so that they can daydream, so that they can sit and meditate, they can get off to sleep on their own independently. That you are standing in a queue and no longer are you getting irate and annoyed, but instead that you've learnt that you can actually calm down in the moment, that you've got those skills, but you're getting them from the online platform.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Um, and this is a discussion, and this brings up a discussion I had with some other coaches and teachers um, about being sometimes, and maybe this is because of my background as a therapist and whatnot, but sometimes in sessions it feels like we are reparenting, and in that process of reparenting, there comes the pushing your kids off the nest and allowing them to fly. And it is really, now I'll speak as coaches and as teachers, it is really important for us to understand that that is also part of the process. That we're here to teach you the tools so then you can use those tools. And hopefully, my hope is that eventually you don't need me to coach you to sleep. You don't need me to coach you to manage certain emotions, because we have worked together and you have now the tools to work through your emotions and whatever it is that the, but I think it's also very important for us, and it's a beautiful balance because we have bills to pay and we need clients, and but that's a whole different conversation for a whole different platform. But Rochelle had something to say, and then Dana.
I was just going to touch on the fact that if we're talking about the kind of disruptive nature, I think that's what really put me off of technology for a long time. The disconnect when you go on the bus, people not speaking to each other. And obviously, it really depends on where you are. But, if you look around the world, there is generally a massive disconnect in terms of our sociability and how we are interacting with one another. And you know we talk about the positives, but it's definitely you definitely see it more in the young people, but it's that connectivity and being able to kind of spark up a conversation with someone on the street, and that's so important to our mental health. That ability to just be able to speak to people and not be engrossed in our phone, and when we're just kind of completely in that kind of zone. So just being able to kind of recognize that and be able to kind of take a step back.
Absolutely. Dana.
Yeah, so thank you. I look at it, and so I'm a huge fan of technology. I've worked in technology for years. And so and it even can help with the understanding of how our minds function, because what we build is based off of how we function as well. So it's kind of like a reflection of ourselves, even AI. But I think it's a matter of focus, right? Because with technology, when we don't want to be with ourselves or our own thoughts, we can very quickly, access something through technology. But it can equally be this tool that helps us. And so it's about centering yourself and your focus for that tool. Is it bringing you to center? Is it helping you focus? Or is it a distraction because you don't feel good right now? Because I can sometimes, when I don't feel happy or something inside, I can find myself, well, let me go look and see how people responded to this post, how many likes did, those sorts of things, the way to appease our feelings of lack in ourselves. But also technology can be so helpful. Like today, I just cracked up. I went to lunch with my cousin, and I'm sitting there, and I look up, and there comes this woman that I dated that I really, really liked, and it didn't work out. And this was, it was like, okay, there she is. And I was okay. I was chill. I was like, yeah, it didn't work out, and I'm still happy, and that's cool. And then when I got back to my house, I was editing a meditation for uh, to upload, and I was playing it back, and it was the one I did about right after having lost her. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is the one I'm editing. I didn't even remember, so I'm playing it back, and it's like choosing yourself. And so in that moment, Source Life was using technology. Like, who knew? I could not have planned that. And to sit there and edit the one, that I had done. And I just sat back in awe, of one, the different space I was in, how I was like, oh, yeah, there she is. Wish her well. No big, and I wasn't crushed and I wasn't falling apart. And so, I'm grateful to technology, but it is up to us to control our focus and our attention, because the technology is built to grab your attention. Technology is built to pull you in. And what's so valuable about your attention? That all these websites, all these places want your attention. There's value in that. And there's incredible value when you focus that attention on yourself to get to know you. And so just think, industries are built to get your attention. That's priceless. Keep it for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. So good. So, and thank you for sharing your own experience. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront. Dawn. You're muted, Dawn.
How about now?
There he is. There he is.
Thank you for that. I had a really weird experience yesterday with a client. It's the first time this has happened. She was talking about how she's been working really diligently on some personal stuff. And she said, yeah, I was sitting with my chat GPT yesterday and I got such great input. And I went, oh my God, I'm going to be replaced really soon. It's going to happen, right? I'm going to be kicked to the curb and chat GPT is going to come in and take over my therapy practice. I've used it. I've been using it to help write a book and do the outlines. And it's a book about the art of therapy, which is kind of a counter to evidence-based practice. It's like being an artful therapist. Um, and Claude, I don't know if you know about Claude, but Claude has this really wonderful voice as an AI that is very kind of human in terms of its emotional content and the way it relates. So, but that's the first time that she talked about it like it was like another person. There's my girlfriend, and there was Chat GPT, and I went, "Oh my goodness, I'm in a new age for sure."
Yeah,
To share.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I guess Violet GPT is going to have to be a whole different AI, a whole different um um topic. I know
Yeah.
my relationship with AI is one that I respect, but I have really strong opinions about it that I've posted online before, and it was not well received by some teachers, and that's okay. That's
That is
okay.
okay. And I'm on with you 100% because sometimes I read stuff and I'm like, oh, that was totally done by Chat GPT. And that takes away the authenticity for me. Like I don't want to, if you're a teacher or a spiritual leader, I want to hear what you have to say. Not I can ask Chat GPT these questions. That's not what I'm looking for.
And to Dawn, I use GPT also for
Yeah, me too.
editing, for for several things. But hopefully we're not using it to script our
No,
meditations.
exactly.
That's
I'm a coder during the
that's all
day
I'm
for work,
saying.
and I use it for work, and it's amazing. I used to spend weeks trying to decode stuff that I just couldn't figure out, and now I put it into Chat GPT, and in a couple of minutes I have my solution. So that frees up my time for Insight Timer.
April shared earlier in the comments. I noticed so much more. I tune out distractions. Like I noticed a tree on a trail that I pass all the time. I was mesmerized by a flower growing through a hole in a rock the other day. I stopped wearing headphones and challenged myself to notice things I usually miss. And Stephanie also shared, I taught kids for 30 years. Now getting ready to go into jails to bring yoga to women. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Message me. I teach yoga in prison settings, and so yes, I love it. Oh, so exciting. Anyways,
I knew you would get excited when you saw that. I was excited for you.
um, so I appreciate what you all do on Insight Timer, and I also think I might know that you are giving so much without people paying. So thank you for seeing us, Stephanie, and thank you for the work you do. Don, you had something you wanted to share.
I think we should read Matt's comment.
I've missed it. I've missed it. Go ahead and read it for me, Don. I know that's my job, but I can't find it. Sorry.
I'm assuming that's hello, the code is love.
0100
Oh,
000110.
Well, I read that one too, but I
That's
thought
all.
you were talking about the other one.
I was like, wait, did I miss something? Did I
Matt,
miss
that was so
something?
funny.
Hey, Matt. Matt is another teacher here on Insight Timer. So good to have you here, Matt. So speaking of openness and GPT and working one-on-one with clients and co-creating communities in online spaces and even in person, what role does vulnerability or openness and presence play in a digital community for you? How important or how not important is vulnerability and or presence when creating a digital community?
Yeah.
Anyone, not all at the same time, please.
I
I
can
think
share.
people need to know us and like us and trust us. And
Mm.
if you're not legit, if you're not authentic, that's not going to happen. So it's really simple. And being vulnerable is part of that. Being real is part of that, I think.
Agreed. Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna say very similar. I think that's kind of what humanizes technology a little bit, and it can create it to be a tool that we could use because we are not, we're not machines. We're not just doing things. We come in with a lot of emotion, and I think there's a great deal of space for that to live in technology. I think actually a lot of ChatGPT is probably trying to like emulate in a way that emotionality that a person would have. And I agree with Don, it probably is coming from my job very quickly. But at the same time, I guess my own sort of maybe perhaps delusional solace is thinking that while ChatGPT can create a lot of sort of forward movement, like almost like a life coach in a way, right? Thinking, brainstorming, oh, you might consider this approach, you might consider this, but that human element, even though it's attempting and trying to get to know you, and but I think that's something that really is very human based, that ability to connect, not even with, sometimes not even with words, sometimes just with body language and presence, like you were saying about, I could be with a room with my client and we can just be here and we don't have to say much, but there's something there. And Richelle talked about before, like distance Reiki, like that energy that you feel that kind of surpasses geography and boundaries, and that there's something to that's a presence that doesn't always live just in technology. But I do believe that we need to approach our interactions with technology in a very human way, because that's some part of us that's unequivocally human, right? Something that is just what we have, right? That separates us from the animal kingdom and the animal world. It's very unique to us. And so I think if we begin to lose that, it's like kind of losing a part of yourself. And probably most likely why a lot of my clients end up in therapy, because we want to reclaim some of that. But yeah, I would say there's a lot to be said about vulnerability and still maintaining that. I think I see it a lot I mean, I do definitely see it a lot on this app, on Insight Timer, but I see it a lot on other platforms, and more so now than before. I think before we used to have this kind of curated way of interacting with like social media, for example. It's still kind of curated, right? But I think we're getting to a point where it's starting to become a lot more vulnerable, and people are using it to promote vulnerability versus having this like very kind of just sort of painted, superficial, like, this is who I am on Instagram. Like, who are you really? Like, where is this vulnerability really? I think we're getting more and more to that, and I'm here for it. I love to see that movement away from sort of the pretend and more to this is real. It's online, but it's real.
I love that. I love that. Anyone else? Go ahead, Richelle.
I was just going to add, I think, vulnerability can come in lots of different ways. And if I think about ways that I often work with kind of clients one-on-one, vulnerability in technology, people are able to, show their kind of, their physical measures. So like, what's their heart rate? What's their poo looking like? This sort of thing. It's vulnerable. It's about being completely open. And I think actually a lot of people find it easier to have that openness online than sometimes you can have face to face. And I think the ability to have all these different tools with technology, to be able to track yourself, to be able to measure yourself, it really is. It really opens up the ability to kind of what is vulnerability and what can we share with a provider that, it's like what we touched on before about ChatGPT. ChatGPT, yes, I use it for scripting, maybe something for my website where I really need some support, like, I'm writing it. But the thought of using it in a space of where connection is needed, it just blows my mind, because it's about having those spaces to just sit in silence. And what do we learn just even from those moments of being vulnerable and that emotional connection? So yeah, I think vulnerability comes in lots of different ways, and there's definitely so many tools that we can take from technology to kind of support vulnerability that I think can be really, really helpful.
Absolutely. It was interesting because I ended up in college a really young boy. I started college at 14, into psychology, and I was really trying to understand myself. And one of the things that my profession taught me was to pretend perfection, was to disassociate and be this. So the healing journey I started my intentional healing journey at 22 when I was at the end of myself. It was really interesting process in allowing my humanness. When we talk about vulnerability, it's not necessarily, like Richelle says, it's not necessarily, it comes in different ways, but it's really our humanness, our human experience to be present. I think sometimes we show up as experts and we forget that we are still human, that what we're teaching is what we've practiced. We're giving part of the essence of who we are. And that connection is, especially in online spaces, in digital communities, it's so important. I know for me, one of the things I speak on is vulnerability, here on this platform. And it has been so instrumental for me to show up just as I am, and be honest. Hey, this week I had a tough week. And not to say we overshare, because also boundaries. But to say, hey, I am really tired today. And that is okay. That is human. Instead of pretending that, oh, I'm so great, I'm so awesome, and there's nothing going on in my life because I meditate every day for 15 minutes in silence, and nothing happens in my life because if I meditate for 20 minutes straight in complete silence, your life is going to be perfect. Played yourself. Played yourself. Anyone else? And I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'd written down the silence that ChatGPT will never offer that silence, that space, like Richelle talked about, that we and the it's absolutely about being genuine. And I have come to sessions where I mean, Violet was there for one where I had a horrible cold that I thought I was over, and I was so real. It is just about being yourself, and because we're all real, everyone is going through their stuff, and we we are going through our stuff. We are a work in progress, constantly learning. I will never, my inbox is never going to be empty. I'm going to be constantly learning, doing things. And ChatGPT will not cure that. It will not fix that up for me. And I will never write a meditation using ChatGPT because that's not me. It has to be real. It absolutely has to be real. Thank you.
Absolutely. Dana, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I was just feeling into what Anne was saying. And, people will say to me, like, oh, you're so vulnerable. And I'm like, really? I'm just myself, I'll just say it, I'm not perfect. My life has its ups and downs. And I think that's what's such a beautiful thing about living, as awareness is to be that space, to your own life, to be real, to not have to be perfect. And sometimes I think technology takes us away from that, right? Because we see these, the perfect pictures on the internet and, pictures of people's meals and then that great shot that they took 600 photos of themselves to get, And but I love the ability for it though to connect all of us together. But you feel the real. And when Anne was speaking, I was feeling that through her. And that's what we're all seeking is that real connection, which AI, I support it when, because there's one called Pi that's made by therapists. So be afraid, be very afraid. It's very emotionally intelligent. But even then, and I want it for people who they don't have something else. I want you to have that. I want you to resource that. But never forget that you're the most real thing. And taking the time to be with you, even if you don't have a technology resource. Be real with you. Take time with you. Spend time with that which is real, like nature. And so I appreciate that aspect. And AI can hint towards that for us. But you're so much more amazing. And just being real with you. Just find it. So I was just vibing Anne when she said it because I could feel it. And so I appreciated that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Sometimes we speak on vibrations, and there's a vibration that exists that only we can experience amongst ourselves with what is real, like you said, Dana, with this is real, this emotion, this experience, the wisdom that is within every single step we've taken, the love that resides within all of us. That vibration, that is what connects us, that is what builds the community, that is the openness, that is the presence that so many experience in our lives, or through our guided meditations, even the recording. Someone asked me, how come you don't record more? And I said, the creative process for me is it's very different. every time I sit in front of this mic to record, I am giving part of the essence of who I am. This is not just I scripted and it sounds pretty and the song goes along with it. This is more that evoking emotion. We as teachers, as healers, as guides, people are trusting us with their lives. They are trusting us. They're saying, this is me right here, right now. Help me. And there's an immense, and maybe this is a conversation for a different day, but there's an immense sense of responsibility that comes with being guides, that comes with being teachers and coaches. When people say, I trust you with my life, guide me. I don't know where to go. And it's a beautiful connection that we can hear through the app, through Insight Timer, that we can establish in a digital community, because we choose to show up authentically. And so again, to all the teachers here, thank you so much for showing up today. I know it is really early for some of you. It is late for some of you, in the middle of the night. So thank you for saying yes. And I always say this, and it might sound like a cliche at this point, but I mean it when I say thank you for saying yes to the calling, because your yes allows others to say yes to theirs. So thank you for doing the work. Thank you for showing up in your meditation cushion. Thank you for showing up on your yoga mat and working through our own stuff, because we've had our own stuff and we continue to work through it. So thank you to all the teachers, to everyone who's joined us. Thank you. And before we finish, I would like to, one at a time, let us know what's coming up for you here on the app, what new offerings are coming up, when is your next live. If you have a live, I know Richelle's working on her lives, which is going to be really cool to be present. But yeah, what's going on? What's going on with you and on the platform? Go ahead, Don.
Oh, yeah, coming up on Monday. Every Monday, I'm doing a live event at 10 o'clock Pacific, which is 1 o'clock Eastern time. And for Jeffrey, who's over in New Zealand, it's, I don't know what time that is, Jeffrey, 7 a.m. or something on Tuesday, some weird time. But Jeffrey shows up in the middle of the middle of the night sometimes. It's amazing that he comes. But I'm continuing a series called How to Create a Month of Miracles, which has been really, really fun. And this will be our 6th installment coming up on Monday. Thank you for doing this, Alejandro and Violet, of course. Blessings
Thank
to both
you.
of you and everybody who showed up. Nice to meet all of you wonderful teachers. It's great to meet you all.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Don. Who's next? Who's next? What you got coming up? Not all at the same time. And what you got coming up? And then Richelle.
Thank you. And thank you again, both of you, for hosting. It's been great and so good to be here. I've got, in 4 hours, I've got Grow Your Garden, a loving kindness meditation metta. So that's coming up, and I'm starting a weekly Tuesday, which is Wednesday for many people, which is Space of Calm. And that's just a get together where we can just what's bringing calm to our lives, and then a guided visualization at the end. And then I've got lots of lives. You'll find them. There's lots of lives there. And I will record some more tracks. I keep promising I will record some more tracks. So should get onto that. So thank you. And
Awesome.
thank you again very much for having me.
No, thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing your energy to the space. Richelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I don't even care it's middle of the night here. Well, not middle of the night. I mean, that's dramatic. It's 1 a.m. It's fine. But I've got to work at 7. But I was like, I don't care. I need to connect with people, like
I'm
with
so
incredible.
happy that you did.
I really, really am grateful, and I would absolutely love to come again. And I've got, so yes, I mentioned that I'm going to be starting lives. I think the thing that's been delaying it is just I want to make sure that it's not even about being perfect. It's just literally getting the time. But I am really, really keen to get online. I'm in the process of writing a premium track, which is all about, so my, because I specialize in fertility and women's health nursing, my kind of specialty in naturopathy and nutrition has been hormonal health. I look after all different other sort of conditions as well. But that's kind of one of my main focuses. So the premium track is going to be about supporting the menstrual cycle completely naturally. So at the moment I'm writing that. And there will be then, I'll do a live kind of around that time. So yeah, watch the space.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that. Thank you. Thank you. Deana.
Yeah, so I do lives on here. I have a lot of tracks. There's probably about 50 tracks that's available for folks to listen to on here. And I do lives like once or twice in a month. I'm doing a hot mess series because, aren't we all just a hot mess sometimes? And the next one is going to be around grief. So I was grieving the loss of something and went very deep in and saw that the grief was actually something else. So I'm going to have that journey with you on a live so that we can look at that together because it may, what it would be for you. And if you want to hear replays or dive deeper into the content that I have, then you can go to my bio, and the very first link in the bio will get you access to opportunities to hear replays and things like that. So. Yeah, and so passing it now to, I guess, Alex, or back to Alejandra.
Yeah, I also want to very, very, very much thank everyone for having me here. Really appreciate it. It's been a really wonderful pleasure to get to know all of you and get to know where you're coming from and your background and the things that inspire you to do the work that you do. So thank you for that. I have a bunch of recorded sessions on my profile. I also host a Saturday live every Saturday. So I'll be there again this Saturday. It's about 11 a.m. Pacific, and we do a meditation and journaling class. Very, very, I always say, every time I always say beginner-friendly, user-friendly meditation, right? You don't have to have a meditation background. It's very, very open. I do a body scan just because I find that that works quite well for anyone who's feeling maybe anxious or feeling some type of way. Just kind of helps to hold on to something. And so then we do a little journaling at the end as well. And the journaling prompts are typically pretty open. It's sometimes, honestly, it's just whatever feels in the moment, and it feels like a good prompt. Sometimes I love astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I love talking about it. So sometimes it might be like, hey, this is happening and what might be coming up for you, and then we'll journal. So that I do every Saturday, so that's open if you want to join. And I have a couple of courses on the app that you can find on my profile as well. One of them is called Limiting Beliefs. It's a 10-day course on how to navigate limiting beliefs, how to identify them, what to do with them once we do. It has a lot of writing and journaling, so if that's kind of up your alley, that's a course that you're welcome to take. And I have one that's also a 10-day course on grief, and grief and loss, however that shows up for you, right? Some people lose people, some people lose parts of themselves, some people lose, pets, all kinds of just, loss is a given in life. And so it's a course about how to navigate that and how to make space for it, particularly in our culture that doesn't always allow us the space to grieve and sort of rushes us back into normal, whatever that is after loss. So if that's something that's necessary for you or someone that you know, you can check that out as well. But thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.
I have to jump in and say two things. Number one, I loved your course. I forgot I took that course. It had to be 3 years ago, right? Because and you have a track, which I told you, I realized I almost forgot to mention that I absolutely love. I recommended it so many times and I'm recommending it again. It's called Dearest Fear, a love letter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like that track, I played it so many times and I cried every time. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, please listen to that track. It's like what, and it was 3 years ago and I still remember. It was one
Thank
of the
you.
most amazing tracks that I have ever listened to. So I'm definitely, when I post the replay for this, I'm going to include a link to that track because I want everybody to listen to it. It was
Thank you,
amazing.
Violet. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to invite you to our journaling collaborations because I feel like we have an intuitive card reader. We have Blossom Violet who plays piano, and Carly does creative art. And I would love to have you join us one day and add, your knowledge and your input would be amazing.
Oh, that sounds magical. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Did
Awesome.
everybody
I
go?
think
I
so.
lost. Okay.
I
All
think
right.
so. I think we all
Right.
did.
All right, awesome. I want to add that I haven't been practicing what I preach. I tell everybody to share what they have coming up, and I never do. I've got over 100 tracks because I do weekly journaling tracks, and we've got next week. Actually, we've got our Blossom Violet and I, who do a lot of collaborations together. First of all, all her piano music is amazing. I know a lot of you know her. She's in here, but I think she fell asleep. She did say she was going to go close her eyes because she's in Australia, so it's a totally different time zone. But we're doing next week a mutual birthday live, and she has invited a bunch of musicians. Carly's going to be there with her creative art. Natalie's going to be there with her intuitive card reading. And of course, Blossom's going to play the piano. Hopefully, some of the other musicians will play music too. But this is something that we had tried to do last year and we couldn't get the technology to work for us. And as most of you know, being a tech junkie that I am, I was determined to find a way to make what we're doing right now happen. So it's taken me a while. I've got OBS working finally where we want it, and we're starting to experiment with more things. And again, speaking of, tech and being mindful, sometimes tech gets a bad rap. I hear people say, oh, you shouldn't be on your phone. You shouldn't, I love technology. Obviously, I've been using it for good, I like to say, not for evil. One of the things that I saw when I first got on Insight Timer as a user back in 2018 was that there was not a lot of connection between teachers. And I kept thinking, how can we find that? How can we do that? So, of course, I pushed my way in here and was determined to make the technology work so that we could do these collaborations that we're doing now. I'm excited that Insight Timer is going to give us the option to do 2 teachers at the same time. I wish that we could do this through Insight Timer, but that's all right. We've got OBS and I'm willing to keep doing this. Thank you, April, for your donation. That was very sweet. I love this new screen too. Everything pops up. But yes, I love connecting through technology. I understand the need to, minimize certain things. I've unfollowed a lot of stuff that used to cause me anxiety, and I pay attention to the stuff that brings me joy, the things that I do on Insight Timer. I have a full-time job. I work during the day, and I do this only because I love it. I love interacting with these teachers. I love using technology to bring us together, and I will continue to do so. So thank you all for joining us today and for giving us your input.
Go ahead,
Amazing.
Dana. Dana has something to say.
Please,
Violet.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just, I don't know a ton about astrology. I have certainly had enough interactions with it to go, okay, well, this has got something to it. But the stars just recently aligned with the thing was going to be people talking about technology, people working with technology. And so here you're live about technology is hitting in the week, right around the time frame of, heightened conversations and new
Interesting.
inventions. And so I'm like, you just can't make this stuff up.
No, you're so right. You're so right. And I tell people all the time, this was an idea that came to me in the shower. Where these ideas are coming from, who knows? But I'm loving them. And, I want them to keep coming. And also the people who have reached out to me and mentioned certain teachers, new teachers that they wanted to refer. I love that. Keep doing that. And I love the people that send me messages with ideas for topics. We're trying to do themes every month. So if you have other topic suggestions, send them my way so that I don't have to ask Chat GPT. I love getting suggestions from real people. So But again, thank you all of you who joined us. Thank you to the teachers for giving up your time. And those of you who are up very late to be here, thank you so much. And like I said, the replay will be posted. No static on that. There was no static on our end. And, keep doing what you're doing. You're all amazing. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Violet, sticking with us for so many years and making sure the tech works. Thanks so much for that.
Absolutely. I love it. It brings me a lot of joy. Tech is the kiss and the curse. Absolutely. All right, everybody. I'm going to end the live and I'm saying goodbye. And next week, join us next Thursday, right around this time. We'll be here celebrating 2 Violet's birthdays. It's a coincidence that we have the same name and birthdays within 5 days of each other. So we had to celebrate that. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.